In the heart of a dense forest lived a young man named Kieran. He was different from others in his village. While other children chased butterflies or played hide and seek, Kieran roamed the woods, talking to trees and animals. The villagers called him the village idiot, but Kieran didn't mind. He had a deep connection with nature that brought him peace. One day, while wandering near an old oak tree, Kieran noticed a small hole. Curiosity got the better of him and he pushed aside some leaves, revealing a staircase leading underground. Drawn by an unseen force, Kieran began to descend. The air grew colder as he descended, and the sound of dripping water echoed around him. Suddenly, the ground beneath him gave way, and Kieran tumbled down a deep, dark hole. When he finally opened his eyes, he found himself in a vast cavern illuminated by an ethereal green glow. In the center stood a magnificent oak tree, its branches reaching towards the ceiling. And as Kieran approached, he heard a voice. "You have been chosen, Kieran." Startled, he turned to find a majestic white stag beside him. "Chosen for what?" Kieran asked, bewildered. The stag spoke again, its voice echoing with power. "You are destined to retrieve the staff of Avalon from the Forgotten King. Only you can restore balance to our world." With that, the stag vanished, leaving Kieran in awe. He had no idea what the Staff of Avalon was or where the Forgotten King might be, but something inside him compelled him to find out. Suddenly, the ground beneath him rumbled, and the cavern began to shake violently. Rocks rained down from the ceiling as the tree above him withered and crumbled. Just as a large boulder hurtled towards him, Kieran noticed a small opening behind the tree. Instinctively, he crawled through it and found himself in a narrow tunnel. With the sound of collapsing earth behind him, Kieran ran as fast as he could. The tunnel twisted and turned, and he didn't know how much longer it would stay open, but he knew he couldn't turn back. Finally, he burst out of the tunnel and collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath. Looking back, he saw that the entrance had collapsed, sealing off the path behind him. Kieran realized he was in a vast, desolate wasteland. In the distance, he saw a lone figure sitting on a stone throne. Gathering his strength, Kieran approached the figure, who turned out to be an old woman. "Greetings," Kieran said, trying to sound confident. "I am here to speak with the Forgotten King." The old woman's eyes flashed with anger. "You seek the Forgotten King? Then you must first face the Guardian of the Wastes." With that, she vanished, leaving Kieran alone in the desolate landscape. Determined to find the staff and restore balance to the world, Kieran pressed on. Suddenly, the ground split open and a monstrous creature emerged. It snarled at Kieran, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Despite his fear, Kieran drew his sword and charged. The battle was fierce, and Kieran felt the beast's claws rake across his armor, but he fought with all his might. Finally, as the sun began to set, Kieran landed a decisive blow, vanquishing the beast. Panting heavily, he looked around for the old woman, but she was nowhere to be seen. As night fell, Kieran decided to make camp for the night. He built a small fire and sat down to rest when suddenly the flames began to dance and flicker, forming a swirling vortex. Out stepped the old woman from before. "You have defeated the guardian of the wastes," she said, impressed. "Now I will lead you to the forgotten king." She extended her hand, and Kieran, still wary, took it. In an instant, they were transported to a magnificent castle made of pure white marble. "This is the seat of the forgotten king," the old woman said, her voice echoing with power. "But be warned, he is not one to trust easily." With that, she vanished, leaving Kieran to face the king alone. Taking a deep breath, Kieran walked into the castle, determined to succeed in his quest. Meanwhile, in a distant realm, a beautiful princess named Isolde was celebrating her birthday. Her father, the king, had promised her a grand ball where she could dance with the finest young men in the kingdom. But Isolde wasn't interested in any of them. All she could think about was a mysterious stranger she had seen riding through town. He was tall and handsome with a kind face, and Isolde couldn't understand why he hadn't come to the ball. Determined to find him, she slipped out of the castle unnoticed and set off into the night. As Isolde made her way through the crowded streets, she heard a commotion coming from an abandoned warehouse. Curious, she crept closer and peered through a crack in the wall. Inside, she saw a group of men gathered around a table playing cards. And in the center of the room sat the mysterious stranger from earlier. He, too, was watching them, a sly smile playing on his lips. Isolde's heart skipped a beat. There was something about this man that both intrigued and frightened her. Suddenly, one of the men at the table made a move that enraged the stranger. He slammed his hand on the table, sending the cards flying. "Enough of this," he said, his voice like thunder. "I have had enough of your cheating." Before the others could react, he swept them all off their feet and tied them up with ropes. "Now," he said, turning to the door, "let me see who's watching." Isolde froze as he approached, but then an idea struck her. Quickly, she slipped back into the shadows, hiding as he passed by. When he was gone, Isolde cautiously emerged from her hiding spot. To her surprise, the men were uninjured and seemed unharmed. "Thank you for saving us," one of them said, bowing his head. "Who are you?" Isolde asked. "We are the Knights of the Silver Hand," the man replied, "and this place was once our stronghold, but now it is a ruin thanks to the Shadow Guild." "The Shadow Guild," Isolde repeated, feeling a chill run down her spine. She had heard rumors of this nefarious group, but never thought she would come face to face with them. Just then, the stranger from before emerged from another part of the building. "So you know of the Shadow Guild," he said. "Then you already know of my name." Isolde gasped as she realized who he was. "The Raven," she whispered. The Raven nodded. "You may call me Lord Marius," he said, "and I am sworn to destroy the Shadow Guild." He turned to Isolde. "You are the princess, aren't you?" he asked Isolde. She replied. "And I am sworn to protect my people from the likes of you." Marius laughed, a low rumble in his chest. "So brave," he said, but there was no mockery in his voice. "Very well, princess," he said. "Let us see if your bravery matches your words." With that, he charged at her, his sword flashing in the dim light. Isolde drew her own blade and met his attack head-on. As the two dueled, sparks flew and the sound of their swords rang through the chamber. But despite her valiant efforts, Isolde was no match for the Raven. He was too strong, too skilled. With a final thrust, he disarmed her and pinned her to the ground. "Yield," he demanded. "I am the Raven, and today you shall witness the end of the Shadow Guild." Kieran made his way through the grand halls of the castle, but no one seemed to be there. It was eerily silent. As he explored further, he began to feel a sense of unease. The silence was heavy, broken only by the sound of his own footsteps. Suddenly, he heard a voice echoing through the halls. "Who goes there?" Startled, Kieran drew his sword. "It's just me," he called out. "Kieran, son of Hamish." The voice chuckled. "Ah, so the prophecy has begun." From the shadows, a tall, imposing figure emerged. His face was stern, his eyes piercing. "I am the Forgotten King," he said, "and you are the hero foretold in the ancient texts." Kieran lowered his sword slightly, still wary. "I seek the staff of Avalon," he said. "Only you can restore balance to the world." The king nodded slowly. "You are right, Kieran, but to wield the staff, you must first prove yourself worthy." Kieran frowned. "How can I do that?" The king gestured towards a suit of armor at the far end of the room. "Defeat my champion, and the staff will be yours." Kieran's eyes narrowed. He had a feeling this was going to be no easy task. Meanwhile, in the ruined castle, Isolde struggled against the ropes that bound her. She could hear the sounds of battle raging around her, but no matter how hard she strained, she couldn't free herself. Suddenly, she heard a loud crash, followed by a scream. Marius. Had he been defeated? Panicking, Isolde struggled even harder, but the ropes held firm. Just when she thought all hope was lost, a familiar voice echoed through the chamber. "Isolde," it called out, "I have brought you a gift." From the shadows, a figure emerged carrying a small wooden box. "What's in here could be the key to freeing you," the figure said, placing the box at Isolde's feet. "But be warned, the magic within is powerful. Use it wisely." With that, the figure vanished, leaving Isolde alone in the darkness. Hesitantly, Isolde reached out and opened the box. Inside, nestled on a bed of velvet, lay a silver dagger. As she pulled it out, the blade shimmered, and Isolde could feel its power coursing through her veins. It was magic. And in that moment, she knew exactly what to do. Isolde plunged the dagger into the ropes binding her, and in an instant, they dissolved into dust. The dagger had freed her. With a newfound surge of strength, Isolde wasted no time. She raced through the halls of the ruined castle, eager to find Marius and help him in his battle against the Raven. The battle between Kieran and the Forgotten King's champion was fierce. The champion was strong and skilled, and Kieran felt himself growing weaker with each passing moment. Just when he thought he might lose, he remembered the purpose of his quest. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for balance, for nature, for everything he held dear. With a renewed surge of strength, Kieran pushed forward. And finally, with a well-aimed strike, he vanquished the champion. Panting heavily, Kieran approached the Forgotten King. "I have proven myself worthy," he said, holding out his hand. The king looked at him for a long moment, then placed the Staff of Avalon into Kieran's hand. As he touched it, a jolt of energy surged through him, and he could feel the power of the staff coursing through his veins. At that moment, he understood the magnitude of his task. He was now the keeper of this ancient artifact, and it was his responsibility to use it wisely. As the sun rose, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Kieran emerged from the Forgotten King's castle, the Staff of Avalon held high. Beside him stood the king and his champion, along with a new ally, the beautiful Elara, who had been won over by Kieran's courage and kindness. Together, they formed an unlikely alliance, united in their determination to bring balance back to the world. "The path ahead may be long and perilous," the Forgotten King said, his voice grave, "but you are not alone. The elements are with you, Kieran." With that, they parted ways, each taking their own path, but their destinies intertwined. Meanwhile, at the edge of the Whispering Woods, Marius stood silhouetted against the rising sun. He was battered and bruised, but his spirit was unbroken. Beside him lay the defeated raven, his wings clipped and his power diminished. The battle had been long and hard fought, but in the end, good had triumphed over evil. Marius looked up as Isolde emerged from the trees. She was radiant in the morning light, and her eyes shone with newfound determination. "We have to hurry," she said, sensing the urgency in his voice. "There isn't much time left." They wasted no time. Marius cradled his injured wing as he and Isolde raced towards the Forgotten King's castle. As they fled, the raven watched them go, a cruel smile spreading across his face. "So the princess has come to join the fun," he croaked. "Very well. Let us see how much your little alliance has improved." With a burst of dark energy, he transformed into a giant raven and took to the skies, following close behind Marius and Isolde. The chase was on, and the fate of the world hung in the balance. Deep within the Forgotten King's castle, Kieran struggled to control the Staff of Avalon. Its power was immense, and he could feel it thundering through his veins. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the halls. "Kieran, you must hurry," it cried. "The raven is loose, and he seeks the Staff of Avalon." Kieran's heart raced. He knew he had to act fast. Summoning every ounce of strength he possessed, Kieran channeled his magic and activated the Staff of Avalon. The castle trembled as a blinding light erupted from the tip of the staff, banishing the darkness that had enveloped the castle for so long. But the light didn't stay within the castle walls. It surged forth, pouring out into the world like a tidal wave. As it spread, it awakened the ancient guardians of nature, the dryads, who stirred from their slumber in the heart of the whispering woods. Meanwhile, Marius and Isolde raced through the forest, the raven close behind. They had to reach the forgotten king's castle before the raven did, but time was running out. The raven swooped down, blocking their path. "So you have come to join the party," he croaked, his eyes gleaming with malice. "But I am afraid it is too late." Just as he lunged, a blinding light erupted from the forest behind him. The raven screeched and flapped his wings frantically, trying to shield himself from the light. As the light subsided, the raven lay on the ground, his powers drained. He had underestimated the strength of the bond between Kieran and the natural world. With the raven defeated, Marius and Isolde raced towards the castle, their steps quickening. They burst through the doors and collapsed, exhausted but triumphant. Kieran stood in the center of the hall, the staff of Avalon glowing softly in his hands. He had restored balance to the world, and the ancient magic of the forest surged through him, invigorating him, healing him. He turned to greet his companions, a wide grin spreading across his face. They had done it. They had saved their world. Together, the unlikely heroes celebrated their victory, their laughter echoing through the ancient halls. Kieran knew that his journey was far from over. He was now the keeper of the staff of Avalon, and he knew that great challenges lay ahead. But he was no longer afraid. He had faced his fears, embraced his destiny, and in doing so had found his true self. And so the legend of Kieran, the humble woodcutter's son, who became the hero of the Whispering Woods, was passed down through the ages. For as long as the trees whispered their secrets to the wind, his name would be spoken with reverence and awe.